Welcome to another episode of the Sports Geek Podcast, episode 43. On this week's podcast, I chat with Aaron LeValley from AEG Sports about all things LA, data, digital, Galaxy, Kings, and we chat about Wi-Fi Analytics with Extreme Networks' John Brams.
Welcome to the Sports Geek Podcast, the podcast built for the sports digital marketer. And now, here's your host, who still plays with Legos with his friends, Sean Callanan.
Thank you very much, DJ Joel. I'm pretty sure I said Lego. The plural of Lego is Lego, not Legos, but I won't pull you up on that, DJ Joel. That's right, my name is Sean Callanan, and thank you for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast, either on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or some other podcatcher. If you can't find it, you're not listening right now. But please tell your mates about the podcast and very much appreciate all the tweets and messages we're getting in. I'm going to be quick on the intro here because I've got a couple of really big interviews with some special guests, and you don't want to listen to me all the time. On today's podcast, I chat with Aaron LeValley from AEG Sports on his work with the LA Kings and the Galaxy. We talk digital and CRM, and we talk a little bit about privacy laws as well. And then part of our Seat sponsor series, I catch up with John Brams from Extreme Networks and talk about Wi-Fi in stadiums and some of the analytics they're doing and some really cool stats on what fans were doing on their smartphones at this year's Super Bowl. Later on, we'll look at which team is using 3D technology on their court for halftime entertainment, which EPL team is using comic books as a way to engage their fans on Facebook, and we'll have a chat about the SCG transforming into a ballpark this weekend for the opening series of Major League Baseball. Don't forget, the Sports Geek One Day Educational is coming up on March 31st. You can get $50 off by simply using the code MATESRATES. I'd really appreciate it if you could share that out. If you think you know someone who is running a business that could use more business and would like to figure out how to use social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and how to pull it all together for their business, please pass it on. Use that code MATESRATES. Get $50 off. I'm really looking forward to the event at Honey Bar on March 31st. Right, let's get stuck into it. Here is my discussion with Aaron LeValley from AEG Sports. Very happy to welcome to the Sports Geek Podcast from AEG. He's the Senior Director of Digital Strategy and Analytics. Aaron LeValley, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Sean. Great to speak to you.
So first of all, Aaron, for people who don't know, I mean, we've got listeners in the States who would know AEG and the behemoth that it is in the sports landscape. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you oversee in your role.
Yeah, so to give a little background on our company, AEG is a worldwide company with a lot of different divisions, specifically facilities, sports, music, operates some convention centers. So we have arenas and convention centers and clubs and theaters around the world, including Allphones Arena in Sydney. We operate the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. We operate some of the stadiums in Brazil that will be participating in the World Cup here. And then one of our divisions is the sports side. On the sports side, we own 8 different entities, of which we operate 6 of them. So the 6 entities we operate are the LA Kings, the LA Galaxy, the Amgen Tour of California, the Manchester Monarchs, Eisbären Berlin, and Hamburg Freezers. Those last 2 are hockey teams in Germany. So we work with 6 of our different entities and really try to bring about best practices and bring about scale to all the teams, help them out with some reporting, some dashboarding, and really increase collaboration between all of our entities. So that's a little bit of background on AEG. What I'm in charge of at AEG Sports is both database marketing and analytics for all of the teams, as well as helping bridge the gap on the digital side. So everything from all of our ticketing reporting to reporting on all of our business metrics to consulting on email marketing systems, best practices for database marketing, as well as digital strategy. So a little brief explanation on some of the different things that we oversee.
So you've come. So when I first met you, you were in the CRM space, and so you've come to that digital side from that CRM. Previously Dwayne, who we've spoken before on the podcast, Dwayne Hankins was in that digital strategy role. Now you've taken over that role. How do you think bringing that CRM slant, or that real data focus that you've had as a strong CRM guy, do you think that's it? Have you changed tact, or is that just been a natural progression that the digital strategy has to be so entwined and in step with what you're trying to do from a data point of view in your CRM?
Yeah, I think one thing to credit is Dwayne, when he came on board, really took our digital team to a brand new level. That's something that I could have never done. His background in digital really helped our team really change the landscape with our digital strategy. But what we decided to do is when we left is we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We didn't think we needed to go about and get somebody brand new to audit the strategy. We felt like we had a good sound strategy, and what we were trying to do is work together more as an organization. So bridge some of the departments together, really bring more analytics in there with the analytics team I was overseeing. And we have good people who help run our social networks, our website, and really all of our digital platforms, and really just take advantage of their strengths and their skill sets. So Pat Donahue, who worked with Dwayne, is now our manager of digital media. And really, all I'm doing from the digital side is helping to leverage the complete organizational strategy. If we're doing something within a database marketing slant, maybe an email campaign, direct mail, call campaign, whatever, is taking a look at the complete picture. What are we doing from a social element? What are we, working with our marketing team with? Do we need to, put some more promotion behind it via advertising, via grassroots, whatever, and then also apply the analytics behind it. So, is this marketing campaign working? What are some of the things that we learned in the past that we may want to adjust our strategies? What type of messaging do we want to use? What messaging works better at what times a day, what times a year? And then looking at that, across entities. So those are some of the ways we're really looking to go, and we're really looking to build more synergies between the different groups and improve communication. Let our digital team focus on the digital, bringing on, both execution and then also taking our digital to the next step and, the evolving technologies.
I mean, I really love what you're saying there, and we catch up at the Seek conference, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in Miami. But really getting the teams, the CRM side of the business and the digital side of the business, and not forgetting the propeller heads in the tech side of things, making sure that they're also part of the equation. But really getting those three parties working together is really vital now in this day and age. You can't really having that silo approach, because if your CRM guys aren't talking to your digital guys, or if it's a combative relationship, you're not going to get the results you want.
Yeah, exactly, and we're embarking on it, and I think because of the synergies we have, we're embarking on a big data project. I know that's a big buzzword, and I hate to use buzzwords, but we're embarking on a project to centralize our databases, which not only will allow us to understand call campaigns and lead campaigns, email marketing, but it'll allow us to understand our loyalty programs, how our customers interact with our loyalty programs, and also the digital side, both social networks, everything from who's a follower, who responds via social media, to who's visiting our web pages at what times, and really trying to get the complete picture of the customer. Because a big thing for us is, in the fragmented marketplace, you can't put all your money towards an advertising campaign or a direct mail campaign or a social campaign. You really have to, address the customers where they want it to be addressed. So, that's, I think, one thing that this organizational and this structure is allowing us to do, is allows us to spend some time on those analytics, spend some time on building a database structure that we're able to really take full advantage of and use towards to understanding the customer and marketing to them in the way that they want to be marketed to.
I understand what you're saying there. We're saying we're running a big data project, because I think most teams are running something under that same title. We're running a big data project and want to better understand our fans. But when you're pitching that kind of thing, or you're proposing that kind of thing, what particular metrics or goals are you trying to get out of that project? Is it a raising a dollar per fan? Is it a ticket sales thing? Do you have specific goals around those projects? Because otherwise, if you don't have those goals, they sort of just become these big chunks of work that don't have any specific reason why you're driving it. Have you got some goals around that project yourselves?
Yeah, I think the first thing I kind of alluded to before is really understanding how the consumer wants to be talked to. So we're seeing mobile apps grow and grow. We see social networks pop up, be it Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, all those out there. A lot of teams, we execute direct mail strategies, we execute email strategies. We do call campaigns. So the marketing budget is not getting increased tenfold so that we can reach to all these different areas. So while working within the same marketing budget, what we're trying to do is this project will allow us to centralize all of these metrics. We'll be able to attribute revenue to different areas. We'll be able to understand where our consumers are interacting with our brand. And when we're able to do that, when we build a season kickoff campaign or a new sales campaign, or just an awareness campaign, we're able to say, okay, we have 200,000 people that we can message, we can market to, we have privileges. Instead of sending a direct mail piece to 150 and then sending an email piece to 125, and then we're going to do our general advertising, and then we're going to pay for promoted posts. It's really understanding these types of people want to be communicated with in this way, and trying to get down to the kind of hyper segmentation, really get down to this specific customer we can interact with in this way, and be it a mobile app push, an email blast. If we're seeing somebody not open our emails, why are we wasting time sending them an email? But maybe they're a little old school and they like a direct mail piece, or they respond well when we call them. We have a sales rep call them. And then also applying the digital side, the digital metrics to understand, what types of consumers are responding to different mediums. So if we have fans 18 to 34 and we want to pitch them a 10-game plan, then we're going to spend our time on social networks focusing on that segment, on that message. So we're not trying to be everything to everybody.
And the thing is, as the social networks are developing, and especially their ad products that they've got available, you can start taking that data and using that back into those networks. So things like the Facebook custom audience options, and the fact that you can say, the people who aren't opening my email, but we know they're on social, well, we can actually direct a post directly to those 10,000 or 20,000 people that may not have opened the email, but we can reach them via promoted post, using some advertising, and be real targeted about that specific promotion without having that blast show everybody type approach. You can sort of take that data and use the right method to reach the right fan.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking at doing. We've done a couple of trials on Facebook promoted posts and some on Twitter, but really we're starting to incorporate that into our marketing strategy a lot more, rather than just retargeting visitors who went to our website. We know that Facebook post, that Twitter post, they're not being seen by as many because of all of Facebook's algorithms or whatever Twitter may do on the back end. So we know that we have to extend the reach, and Facebook's done a good job of allowing us to really hyper segment, to focus in on specific audiences, customize the message so that when we do promote the post, it is getting seen by the right audience. And like we said, when we get the data from everything that we've collected on our fans, and we've been able to analyze the types of fans and how they respond, all of a sudden that ties into our digital strategy and how we promote within to those customers.
So in Australia, we're moving into football season. It's the main sports code with the AFL and the NRL. And one of the big things that drives AFL and NRL is membership or season ticket holders, as you would call them in the States. And we're running campaigns at the minute to drive and boost membership with our clubs. Do you want to take us through what you're trying to do with the Galaxy around driving new season ticket sales?
Yeah, so with the LA Galaxy, the season just started. We had our first regular season game on March 8th, so just about a week and a half ago. So to help launch the season, we at the Galaxy have a fair amount of season tickets that we need to sell. So we're really trying to focus in on small game packages up to full season seats.
So how many season ticket holders do the Galaxy have?
So we have roughly, I'm trying to remember the number, I think like 6,000, and we have close to 27,000 seat stadium. So, since we've been on board, a lot of our focus has been on growing our season ticket base, be it full season seats, half season, mini plans, because we know that we need to have a stronger base to be able to sustain ourselves long term, to not rely so much on groups and individual promotions. That from a long term strategy, we have to get that arena filled night in, night out, and without season ticket holders, we're not going to be able to do that. So what we did is we do what we normally do when we launch the campaign is we take our email opt-in list and we say, okay, here's a ticket prospecting email. This is about full season tickets. So we send that out to everybody. And the key thing we do after that is we understand the behaviors of our customers to that first message and then go from there. So we'll send out the email campaign and we'll send out a direct mail piece. What we'll do is we'll understand our customers' behaviors on that email, whether they clicked on a full season ticket link, whether they purchased, whether they clicked on a group link, a mini plan link, even a single game link. We'll track all those behaviors, and over the course of a few weeks, when we track those behaviors, the next communication will be something where it's completely tailored to the products they're interested in. So we're fortunate we have a marketing automation system which we can also track online forms and incorporates web analytics. So we're able to understand people who have also visited our pages and whether they've converted or not. So we'll take a look at this picture over the next couple of weeks, analyze our customers, and then when it comes to the second campaign will be completely tailored based on their interests. And then we'll observe that for another 2 weeks, and then we'll do one final push to people who we call show extreme interest. So have clicked on an email, have visited a web page multiple times, and really turn a season kickoff email into a 2 month or a month to 2 month long campaign, which also incorporates a direct mail campaign, web behavior, online form behavior. So, it really tries to give us the complete picture. We've run these types of things in the past, and we don't have the metrics behind it yet. We launched it probably about 3 weeks ago. So we're right in the middle of it now. But when we've done these campaigns in the past, we're learning more and more about our customers, and showcasing these has been extremely successful to get away from the batch and blast type of thing, which we still do and still has a strategy, but you have to be able to learn from that batch and blast. You have to be able to learn what those customers are clicking on, and also the goal of this long term is, next year we get away from the batch and blast and we're delivering targeted emails from the start. So we'll be collecting information throughout the year on the Galaxy Galaxy fans what types of tickets they're interested in, where they like to sit, who their favorite players are, so that when we come to campaigns later on in the season and we come to this campaign next year, we're no longer delivering a sort of batch and blast. We've collected all the data we have on these customers, and we're understanding the products that they want.
What tool are you using to do that marketing automation?
We use Adobe Campaign, which is formerly Neolane. It's a company it was a company based out of France and then acquired by Adobe probably about a year ago. There are varieties of companies which do a great job. Eloqua, which was acquired by Oracle, is very good. Marketo is a very good one. I believe Salesforce has a campaign. I can't remember the exact one. I think it's Pardot. Exact Target works on stuff. So there are a variety of them out there, everything from really expensive tools to much more cost-efficient tools that you can utilize. And a lot of times, if you have somebody dedicated to it, which I highly suggest, is even if you just have your basic email campaign, it's being able to track and label your links and working with your email provider to understand do I understand which person clicked on which link, because then you can create segments and message to them in the appropriate ways. The joy of the automation program is we set all this up once, we set all the logic and the workflow once, and then it runs itself. So that's a nice thing. Whereas in the past, before we had Adobe Campaign, we used to do some of this stuff, but it would take a lot longer and be a lot more intensive on the workload, because you'd look at who clicked on this specific link, build the segment, craft the emails, and then send out 5-6 different emails.
Do you do much? I was talking to the guys at the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and one of the things that's been really effective for them from a membership point of view is effectively hitting up the fans twice. So they have a non-ticketed membership where they just declare themselves as a member and it's a relatively low cost. But then later on in the season, those fans are then sort of targeted for an upgrade, and effectively because they've already paid half of their membership in the non-ticketed form, they don't really realise that they're paying the same price as a full ticket eventually. So it's sort of like you pay half now and you're a member, and it's like, well, did you know that you could just have to pay another $100 and you're a general admission member and you get to come to all the games? And it's done really well to convert fans sort of in that start of the season. They've forgotten that they've already paid the first $100, and it doesn't seem as much. Do you do much in the way of upgrading and upscaling that fan that's bought the mini plan, and then get them on the hook for the second mini plan for the second half of the season?
Yeah, we constantly are doing that. That's a big portion of our strategy, and is those are your best leads, is kind of working up that sales ladder. So we're constantly evaluating our sales ladder. Our sales ladder. Who bought a single game ticket last year? How many converted to the next plan? One of our call campaigns will be, we'll send out our buyers, our single game buyers, to our sales reps. And if they're able to upsell them, we can refund them the game and charge them the lower rate, and get them into a 3, 5, 10 game plan. So we're always looking at that. I think that's a great idea that they're doing. If we have a 3-game plan for the Galaxy this year, which is focused on early season games, which at the end we're definitely going to make the call to try to get them to 3 games later in the year, hopefully delivering a competitive rate, hopefully delivering a good benefits package, and really showcasing the price savings of upgrading. Is you don't have to spend a lot more money to get a lot more games, because you're probably, by going from 3 games to 6, you're probably getting a lower rate, you're probably adding on a benefit or two, and all of a sudden for the consumer it makes the decision easier for the consumer. And that's really what we're trying to do with all of our projects, is make that decision easier.
So one of the things, you being a data focused guy, we love social networks as a sales lead, and a way to drive traffic to our websites. But one of the things is that Mr. Zuckerberg, he owns all those fans. He can access them. We can't as marketers. So what strategies have you found work really well to suck the data out of, get the data out of Facebook and Twitter and get them into your database? Is there any specific sort of campaigns or tools that you've used to sort of try to get more of that data into your system?
Yeah, we've tried a few things, and again with our marketing automation tool, we've done something with Twitter where we know who our followers are, and we're able to direct message the followers. So we'll create a strong call to action, and the key is it needs to be a very strong call to action because you're messaging to them where they're not expecting it. A lot of times in social media, people don't want to be messaged to unless they really know you, they have that relationship with you. So what we did is we actually delivered a strong call to action through a direct message, which was to a sweepstakes, and we found out we sent out of the direct messages we sent out, we actually saw about 10% respond to that direct message, and we were able to capture that data. So, I think there are tools out there. I know a tool that we've worked in the past is with Facebook is WooBox, and there's plenty of other ones similar to that. But there's a lot of tools out there which integrate with your Facebook, which again is all about delivering, it's all about delivering quality so that their fans are willing to share their information with you. And it's making sure you don't, betray that fan trust. I mean, I think a lot of fans and a lot of consumers on Facebook see it's okay to publish my information or share my information by going on there. And I think people are starting to back away from those. So, again, it kind of comes back to delivering content and delivering quality content. It's not only for your website, but it's for your social media, it's for your email campaigns, it's for your contests. You have to be able to deliver something quality that your fans like, and then they'll be willing to share that information. They'll be willing to pay the money on those tickets as long as you're delivering a plan that fits a need for the customer.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a little bit of pushback from fans. I mean, I don't think that they're as open as they were a couple of years ago of giving over their data. I don't know if that's because the NSA is reading everyone's emails, or we've just had new privacy laws come out here in Australia. I think fans are more wary, so you really have to raise the bar as a sports team when you're running whether it's a competition or something from a fan experience point of view, that is enough for them to hand over that kind of data. And then the other thing is you've got to deliver high quality, email newsletters and high quality information to the fans. Otherwise, they're not going to open those emails and they're not going to be interested.
Yeah, you pointed in one thing there, the privacy laws. That's obviously, you just had new laws in Australia, and that's something in the States that have been talked about a lot. And we as marketers have to be cognizant of these privacy laws. A lot of things the trust is put into the marketer's hands to self-govern. So we as marketers, as we look to do these things, make sure we don't violate the consumer's trust, because the more and more we violate the consumer's trust, the harder it's going to be for us to do these things in the future, to do other unique things where, we know who these customers are, we're able to market to them. And, our goal and our job is to deliver relevant and timely content to them. And we believe with these strategies we're not just delivering them the same content to everybody. With understanding more about the consumer, we're able to deliver that relevant and timely content, but it comes back to, we need to make sure that we're all understanding of the privacy laws in our jurisdictions, understanding where they're going, and to not violate the privacy of the customer.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the laws only came out recently here in Australia, and there are a few people spooked. But if you stick with the premise, I'm no lawyer, but if you stick with the premise of actually of not violating that, and the main thing I think from the privacy laws, I'm hoping to catch up with someone who actually is an authority for the podcast. But the main thing is ask permission for what you want to do, and as long as the fan has agreed to that, then you'll be fine. But you really can't violate that trust because you'll lose fans pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think on that tracking data. I think there's still Facebook apps out there that offer value in that sort of game sort of space. But I think the next place that, from a data point of view, is how teams can use the Twitter cards functionality, like the fact that you can opt in with your email or even vote with the Twitter cards. I think that might be, I guess, it's something that will develop over the next 12 months. Being able to just click on a button and you're entered is, the more seamless it can be for fans, the easier, the more chance that you'll get that data.
Yeah, no, we're always looking into those types of things and watching the different networks and really the new technologies and how we can understand more about our customers in the social sphere, I guess.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Aaron. It's taken us a few times and a few reschedules to make this interview happen, but good to chat to you. And looking forward
thanks, John. It's been great.
Looking forward to catching up with you at SEAT in Miami. Christine's telling me that there's going to be a few AEG people turning up, so should be a good week.
We should have a lot of them, hopefully. So it'll be fun. It's always a good time and a great place to learn a lot about sports marketing and digital and database and working with some of the best who do it in the industry.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Aaron LeValley from AEG Sports for joining me on the podcast. Please connect with him on LinkedIn. His details will be on the show notes, and please check out the shot of him in full LA Kings gear. He was lucky enough to have a skate in the outdoor rink with the Stadium Series earlier this year, skating in LA in the middle of summer. Must have been a surreal experience, and I do think that should be your new LinkedIn avatar, Aaron. Looking forward to catching up with him and all the guys at SEAT. As he said there, it's really important. Part of SEAT is the collaboration between the three streams that it offers. The CIO stream, which SEAT generated out of, all the techie guys like Todd Cafflish for the Red Wings and my good friend Kevin Naylor for the Indiana Pacers. They'll fire up the propellers and get the geeks going, but it's also really important that CRM guys and guys who have that CRM focus like Aaron, Russell Scabetti, and those kind of guys really drive the CRM track, and then we have really quality digital guys, guys like Dwayne Hankins, who formerly was at the Kings, now at the Trailblazers, Chris Freet from Miami. Some of the people have been guests on the show. They'll all be there. So if you're working in professional sports, it's really a must attend, and I can strongly suggest you really do need to send 3 people there to cover all the bases. I wish I could split myself in 3 and attend more of the CIO and CRM sessions, but it's just not possible yet. Haven't got cloning for Sports Geek as of yet. My next interview is actually with John Brams, who's one of the key sponsors of SEAT this year from Extreme Networks. They formerly were Intrasys. You may have known that name. So we talk about Wi-Fi in stadiums and some of the solutions that stadiums are looking for, but then also looking at the analytics and how people are using Wi-Fi in stadiums, and that might help solve the debate between Mark Cuban and Vivek Ranadiv.
SEAT 2014 Sponsor Series. See you in Miami in July.
Very happy to welcome onto the Sports Geek podcast John Brams, Director for Extreme Networks. He's the Director of Sports and Entertainment in Boston. John, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
So Extreme Networks, it might be a new name on the scene. Do you want to give us a little bit of background? Because you've been with previously Intrasys Networks for almost 12 years now.
Correct. Yes. Recently, Intrasys went through a merger with Extreme Networks. Actually, we were technically acquired by Extreme Networks to come together as one company and be one. We're now as one combined entity. So that happened within the last 90 days. It's a great marriage between two companies that have a long history of providing really networking solutions in the space, and it was a really nice fit because while we both have data networking products that exist in the market, we had a little different emphasis on what our specialization was. Legacy, sort of Enterasys focused a lot on the enterprise. We were very focused on the network management of that environment, and we also had a really strong Wi-Fi offering. And in the extreme side of things, they're definitely known more so on the wired side, definitely an emphasis on service provider market and high-end data center solutions. So really from a technology perspective, it's a really nice marriage between two different organizations that with very little crossover that really provides kind of a overall solution for our customers that we really feel people are looking for in the networking space. So it's been very well received in the industry. Our customers are very excited about it, and we're really excited about our prospects going forward.
So, John, you're obviously very much across one of the big problems that has been a discussion point for many years at SEAT around Wi-Fi at stadiums and at venues. Do you want to take us a little bit back, because you've been at the coalface? You'll be the one rolling out these networks. What's your been experience on how stadiums are adopting it and how teams? I think it was. I can't remember who said it last year at SEAT, but Wi-Fi is becoming a necessity almost the same way as bathrooms at stadiums. It's just sort of an expectation of fans. What have you seen the development over the last 4 or 5 years, and especially it seems to have accelerated in the last 2 years or so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think people are really starting to view connectivity really as a utility, as you suggested. So meaning that when people walk in, they expect to have bathrooms and they expect to have concessions, and there's a whole certain level of checkoff things that there's expectations that they have when they walk into venues. And I think connectivity is really the what people describe it as. Although the interesting thing here is we do hear from people now when they're asked, particularly from stadium ownership, the biggest thing they're looking for, they used to just say, hey, I want to be able to connect. But people are actually specific in saying that I want Wi-Fi, because they're educated enough now to understand there are benefits of Wi-Fi over your traditional sort of cellular experience, both from a bandwidth perspective and also, people wanting to preserve their data minutes on their cell plan. So it's interesting to see that people have evolved. And I think the other thing that's happened is, the industry has evolved. The technology itself has certainly gotten better. The visibility into it, the business models have changed as well in terms of how people approach it. So I do think it's evolved a lot. I like to view it as now is that we're in the second generations of installing the solutions. I think what you saw over the last couple of years were really the first generation, and as what you see with any technology solution, now you're seeing the second generation, and we're already starting to talk about the third generation of what we're going to be doing in this spaces. So it's an exciting time. We see a tremendous amount of activity in this space, not only in the pro, sports and venues, but we're also starting to see that trickle down into the college market as well.
So what are some of the challenges? So with some of the teams that you've worked with, what are some of the challenges with an outdoor stadium like the Patriots with Gillette Stadium, or then the Boston Celtics with an in-stadium arena type of experience? What is there different challenges for those? One, obviously the volume of 70,000 people at Gillette. Is there different challenges that you face with the stadium owners and the teams in solving those problems and really raising? It isn't just about connectivity. It isn't just about being able to connect. It's now fans do want it. The connectivity is part of the game day experience, like being able to access videos and highlights and special in stadium things. Are there different challenges for a large stadium as opposed to an arena style stadium?
Yeah, we always say that in this particular market, there's no one size fits all. Meaning, you do really have to look from a technology and solution perspective on how you design and what your methodology is for like you mentioned, an outdoor facility that hosts 80,000 people versus what you might do for an indoor arena that hosts 20,000 people versus even an indoor venue that hosts 80,000 people, right? They have all very different characteristics. They have different architectural challenges. The other challenge, you'll think, in an outdoor space, what we did at Gillette Stadium is definitely slightly different than what we did at Lincoln Financial Stadium for the Eagles. It is also different what you would do in a college market. For example, if you think about the generation of when those stadiums were built, places like Lincoln Financial Field and Gillette were built, roughly 10 years ago. So they have a certain type of architecture, design, and building materials. And then you go to a college venue that supports 100,000 people that was built 80 years ago that might be built into the side of a hill. It's very different in what you might do to solve the connectivity and what you do from a design perspective. And again, the biggest challenge we see in those opportunities is there's very limited mounting points, for example, where you can put access points and antennas. And so you have limitations in terms of what you can do, not only from an architectural perspective, from a design perspective. So, like I said, we really view each environment as sort of unique opportunities, and they have to have a unique set of design criteria and methodology around it. And I think some people get into problems because they do view this and say, well, we solve it this way, where the reality is each environment's going to have some unique things. So we've really had to work to design specific technologies that help us resolve indoor versus outdoor, outdoor new and old, outdoor with limited mounting options, and we really had to kind of define these and solve these in different ways. And I think that's the best way to approach the market.
I want your take. Recently, the NBA All-Star Game, they had their technology meetup, and Vivek Renadev, the owner of the Kings, has a real strong view of technology in stadium and the experience he wants fans to have, and that's completely opposed to Mark Cuban's view of he wants the fans to be involved in the game and not involved on their smartphones and their devices. And we're currently going through sports through this analytics renaissance, or stats, and the stat geeks are really getting out from the on-field analytics and the athletes. But can you tell us a little bit about what Extreme are doing with Purview in understanding how fans are using Wi-Fi? Because I think this is the kind of data that's going to sort of help quell the Mark Cubans of the world and explain how fans are using the networks in stadiums.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I view this question as really two different things. So when we first started solving connectivity issues in these high density environments and stadiums, the first thing we needed to resolve was what we've already talked about: really solving that environment and making sure you had a connectivity experience that can expand and support thousands of users at the same time concurrently. And that itself was a very big challenge. But what we quickly learned, the second thing that immediately happened after that, and in fact, I would even argue it might be more important, is ownership, or people that were running these venues, said this is great. We have some information now, but we have very little information about what people are truly doing in these environments. What applications are they using? How are they using the network? What's important to them? What's their application response time? What's their network response time? So there was very little visibility into these environments. And that was, if you're going to justify why you made an expense and how well it's operated and how you want to leverage it going forward, it's very difficult to go do that without visibility. And if you think back to the traditional model in a stadium and venue where a carrier might provide the network, it was their asset. So in terms of having visibility into that, as part of their being their asset, they had ownership of it. Now that we've seen that trend towards venue operators of owning the asset and building it out, we've now given them a tool, which we call Purview, that gives them visibility into it. So now that we've had systems that are in production for a couple of years, now they have a run rate of data analytics about answering all those questions. And it's interesting. We're really starting to see some things come through where there was sort of this perception versus reality and what people are really doing in venue and what's important to them. And you're absolutely right. We're really starting to open up our eyes around what people truly want and how they're truly using the network versus what I think people thought they would do when they got on it. And that's really what our NFL announcement was about in terms of our partnership.
Yeah. So you're the Wi-Fi Analytics partner now for the NFL.
Correct. Yeah. So again, if you historically look at it, so from the NFL perspective, they had all these environments, so they had their teams that had networks in place, and they were asking us some of the questions. We'd love to get a sense of what's going on in these environments from a visibility analytics perspective. We really want to understand what our fans were doing. So when we started sitting down with them, and this conversation started a couple of years ago. Like I said, the conversation was really based around, how do we solve this connectivity issue? That's issue number one. Issue number two is how do we get visibility into the analytics going on in our venues? And that's really how our relationship came about, was formulating that partnership and providing the analytics visibility into the environments that they can centralize and start to get a better sense, broadly speaking, about what is happening in the environment. So last year, for example, they put our analytics engine in place in New England, at Gillette Stadium, at Lincoln Financial. They did it at Ford Field in Detroit, and then MetLife, and obviously for the Giants and Jets, and it was obviously in place for the Super Bowl. So it was interesting. We were able to see some interesting trends come out of that as it relates to usage and consumption based on what we saw, for example, in the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, I've got some of the stats here. 3.2 terabytes transferred. Some really interesting stats on 10% of all Wi-Fi bandwidth was from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you actually broke down what people were doing at kickoff, first quarter, second quarter, halftime, and the like.
Yep.
So from the geek in me, sort of does laugh that 18% of people were actually running software updates during the Super Bowl. Again, one of the problems of having Wi-Fi, people's phones just kick in and it starts downloading app updates. It's the last thing you'd think you'd be doing. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting one, because if you think about it, and I think it's built in a lot of applications, they're specifically designed to only update when they're connected to a Wi-Fi network. And as you can see, a large subset of users, when they come into a stadium environment, we see a massive amount of consumption in terms of just doing software updates and all their apps, because that's the way they're built. So it's a good example of, okay, that's interesting. So that's going to happen in a stadium environment. The stadium operator, while that's great, they're seeing usage, that's probably not a priority for them. So we help them say, all right, well, why don't we prioritize? Not that you wouldn't allow that to happen, but you're probably more interested in prioritizing, for example, your game day app over a application software update. So those are the things we really help people out with.
What I was going to say was, this, and I'll include the infographic from the NFL in the show notes, but it just shows you how, and this is where Seat, which will be really great in Miami, how the CIO and the CTO can really help work with the digital team. So I work with a lot of the digital teams, the digital marketing, and the fact that you can prove that you've got more of your fans sharing more content and having things like 5 pictures per second shared up on Instagram via Wi-Fi is a really great case study to say, this is only going to explode our brand and the story and the reason why you have to be at the game. You're making it far easier for the fans to share that experience. They want to do that, and you're just enabling that. So it's a really good way of making sure that whoever the CTOs, the rolling out the system and rolling out the Wi-Fi, that they get that information and some of those analytics back to the digital team, because the fans want to know it, and also it helps the digital and social guys, better justify the, running activations in the stadium, as opposed to what they've done previously is really targeting the fans on the couch. They can now have the ability to run them in stadium. Yeah,
it's a great point, and we have some interesting examples of that, that sort of support that and help define exactly some of the things we're seeing from analytics. So, for example, we saw at the Super Bowl that 2.5 more times bandwidth was consumed on the outbound. We basically took the peak hour, which is wrapped around halftime, and we saw that 2.5 more times of bandwidth was going outbound on the Wi-Fi than was going on the DAS. So you start to get a sense, okay, that not only are people joining the Wi-Fi, but it's really from a data consumption perspective, outbound, you're seeing a significant amount of it happening more over the Wi-Fi than you saw on the DAS. Another thing we saw specific to the Super Bowl is we're starting to see that things outside an event can actually impact things within an event. And a good example in the Super Bowl was, I don't know if you remember, in the second quarter, U2 announced on TV they could get a free download of their latest song. And that wasn't actually announced in the stadium, but through social media, people saw that, and we actually saw that spike happen inside the arena, inside the stadium, and it wasn't even announced. So you're actually starting to see the impact of social media with an event that happens outside the venue actually impact user behavior inside. So it's interesting.
And do you think because it was sort of expected that the outbound network would be where would be happening, because as fans are wanting to share and naturally want to brag, they want to brag they're at the Super Bowl, or they want to brag they're at a game. But do you think now a lot of the teams are putting in a lot of work into their mobile apps to provide content specifically for the fans in stadium? We saw last year at Seat, the guys at Barclays Centre, their app completely changes when you're in stadium. You're having those geolocation settings. Do you think there's going to be more app-specific, whether it's highlights or pre-game shows or those kind of things that are going to be, I guess, the next wave? And that's what you're talking about before, like the third generation. Here we're going to enhance the fan in-stadium experience via the mobile app.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have great examples out across the board, where the point is within their app, offer content that's only available in stadium. We see examples now of people offering, some of it's convenient, some of it's unique, and we have a good example where they've now added bathroom wait times, for example, so that when you're in stadium, it makes your experience better, so that, it guides you where to go to the shortest bathroom lines, for example, is built directly into the app. I think the other trend we're seeing, not only on top of unique content, for example, video, or offering red zone in the case of the NFL, or unique video that's only available, or camera angles, is the extension of the game day experience too. So meaning there's unique stuff available in it, but they're also trying to extend it so that, for example, when you wake up in the morning, you get a wake-up call from your favorite player. And then there's traffic updates built in the app, and then there's parking, and then there's coupons that are available during the game, and then there's wrap-up stuff that's available after the game. So really extending the game experience as well. So and if you put all that stuff in the app, it's another way to message to your users about really what's going on in the environment. Another trend that's somewhat related to that we saw that we find interesting is the adoption rate for Wi-Fi is continuing to rise, and we do believe that will continue to rise at a relatively modest perspective, meaning new users are going to continue to get on the Wi-Fi networks that are on the stadiums. But the more interesting thing is the bandwidth consumption. We're seeing bandwidth continue to be consumed. So that's happening at a much higher rate. Now, some of that's because these phones can perform better. A lot of it's about just the creation of content and what people are doing within the game day app, or with video, or creating content and uploading it to Instagram, for example. So it's only going to continue to rise. The need or the want for bandwidth will continue to go at that pace. It just shows you going back to what expectations are for users as they enter these environments.
Well, thank you very much, John, for joining me on the podcast. I look forward to catching up with you in Miami at Seat to discuss this further. As I said, I think it was when I first went to Seat in 2011, we got a $5 fine every time we mentioned Wi-Fi and DAS. It was such a big problem, but it's becoming more and more the norm that most stadiums are having it. So I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion in Miami.
All right. Thanks for your time, Sean. Appreciate it.
Learn from Sports Geek at our Sports Geek ODE one-day educational. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/ODE.
Thanks again to John there from Extreme Networks. There'll be a link to the infographic that we were discussing there with some of the per-view stats from the Super Bowl. As we said there, the amount of fans that were downloading updates at the Super Bowl is quite astounding. Okay, so let's get into... This has been a long episode, and again, if you were lucky enough to be running, apologies, but run that a little bit harder. This week's Sounds of the Game comes from the AFL. The AFL season kicked off, as we heard last week, chatting with Tyson Densley in episode 42. The GWS Giants, one of the newcomers on the scene in the AFL, came up against their crosstown rivals and one of the premiership favourites, the Sydney Swans, and they caused an upset. Here's their song after the game. Thanks to the Giants for capturing that moment in the rooms after the big win. It's really a big tradition in the AFL to have to watch the team sing the theme song, and it's something that the fans definitely love. So getting that insider access into the change rooms, terrific work there from Matt at the Giants to bring the fans into that inner sanctum. This week's social media post of the week, we head across to the UK and we have Liverpool using comics. Really interesting use of comic form and effectively showing off their fans' top moments and great moments in history in a comic strip style format. So I thought that was a real inventive way of getting the fans involved and just presenting content in a different manner. So that clock is telling me it is time to wind up this show as we're just closing in on 57 minutes for this episode. And this is episode 43 of the podcast. As it is with all Sports Geek podcasts, you can simply go to the number to get the show notes and have all the links that I've mentioned throughout this episode. So go to sportsgeekhq.com/43. 43, I've had a few Carlton fans in my ear this week saying that this episode has to be nominated to Anthony Koutoufides, Carlton legend and former captain. And I said, no problems, I will dedicate this episode to Kuda, but I will also show his Souvlaki Hut TV ad in the show notes. So it has to be one of the worst athlete adverts you've ever seen. So if you haven't seen it, especially those listeners in the UK and the US, please check out the Anthony Koutoufides Souvlaki Hut TV commercial. And in the comments, please nominate some more bad athlete commercials. I'm more than happy to share them around. That's it for this week. Again, one more plug for the Sports Geek ODE. sportsgeekhq.com/ODE. Really looking forward to it. Got some really smart guys in Josh Rowe and Steve Sammartino coming in, giving their point of view on social and digital and how businesses can leverage it. As I said earlier, the code Mates Rates is valid for anybody that you know. Your mates are my mates in this instance. So for my closing 2 cents, I'm heading up to Sydney this weekend as the SCG hosts the opening series between the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. And I must say, what a transformation. Only a couple of months ago, it was hosting the Ashes, and now it is officially a ballpark. And I'm looking forward to crossing it off my list of number of ballparks. That will make 12 MLB ballparks where I've seen an MLB game in. Until next week, my name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
Now, I love what you've done with the name, by the way. The One Day International, One Day Educational. Monday, 31st of March, 2014 at the Honey Bar. Check it out on guides. SportsGeekHQ.com is the place to go to find out a whole lot more about it.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. listen to Beers, Blokes, and Business at beersblokesbusiness.com. Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.